Imagine this, a ship standing alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In the world's eyes, it was a ship from the future, a mining vessel built to extract valuable minerals from the ocean floor, an expensive experiment that looked like a billionaire's crazy project. But this story was only a mask, because the real goal wasn't mining. The real goal was to steal a missing Soviet submarine about 3 miles below the surface, in total darkness, under pressure the human mind struggles to even imagine, and to do it in a way that the Soviets would realize what happened too late. And what's the strangest part, do you know? They didn't just plan it. They built a special ship for it. This is Project AZORIAN, one of the deepest, most expensive, and most dangerous secret heist operations in modern history. The story begins in 1968. A Soviet ballistic missile submarine called K-129 leaves its base and heads toward the North Pacific. Normally, it must check in at certain points, but it doesn't. The Soviet Navy begins searching. Days pass, weeks pass, and nothing is found. No debris, no signal, no survivors. In a normal world, this would be remembered as a tragic disappearance. But the Cold War was not a normal world, because a submarine vanishing wasn't only a tragedy. If you could find it, it was a gold mine for intelligence. What could be inside a submarine like that? Cryptographic equipment, code procedures, navigation systems, sonar technology, even real details about weapons systems. Not rumors, not guesses, real material. But the problem is obvious. The ocean is enormous, and the North Pacific does not give up secrets easily. Yet the U.S. had an advantage: listening systems. Analysts begin narrowing down the possible region. Then comes the hardest stage, actually finding the wreck on the ocean floor. And finally, the U.S. identifies K-129 on the seabed at around 16,500 feet deep. That's about 5 kilometers, nearly 3 miles and down. At that depth, the word rescue starts to sound like a fairy tale. This is not diving. This is not rescue. This means, in total darkness, with near zero visibility, under pressure that can crush steel, you are running an operation with machines. And if you make one mistake, you can't send people down to fix it. If something drops, it's gone. If something breaks, the ocean swallows it. And here, the CIA makes a decision beyond the edge of reason. We will lift it. Not the entire submarine, but a large section, a section that could be strategically valuable, secretly, quietly, before the Soviets understand what's happening. But for that, they need a cover story. A cover so normal, it would look believable, even to journalists, scientists, and Soviet surveillance. And they choose the perfect mask: deep-sea mining. In the 1970s, the idea of extracting minerals like manganese nodules from the deep ocean was futuristic, expensive, and so technical that most people couldn't understand what was normal and what was impossible. Meaning a ship could sit in the ocean for weeks, lower strange equipment, and everyone would accept it as an experiment. But the strength of a cover also depends on its face. So the CIA ties the project to a name already famous as a mystery: Howard Hughes. Hughes was famous, strange, private, and surrounded by endless rumors. If someone said Howard Hughes is funding a weird ocean project, nobody in the world would be surprised. And so the ship is built. Hughes Glomar Explorer. This was not a ship meant only to travel. This was a ship meant to hover. Because at 3 miles deep, the hardest part of lifting something isn't grabbing it. The hardest part is staying directly above the target. Imagine this. You're standing on a moving platform. There's wind, waves, currents, and you must remain above the exact same point with millimeter precision for days, even weeks. Now add one more thought. You are lowering a metal system kilometers long beneath the ship into the ocean. That's why Glomar Explorer is built with special stabilization and position-keeping systems. And inside the ship, the biggest trick is hidden. A moon pool, a secret opening, inside the ship, in the center. The equipment is lowered there. From the outside, an observer sees only a ship sitting still doing work. But the most critical part of the operation is hidden inside the ship's belly, and the heart of the entire plan depends on one thing: a massive mechanical claw. The claw. It must descend to the ocean floor, grab the wreckage, clamp it in the correct position, and then lift it upward. And the claw is not lowered by cable. It's lowered by pipe, like an oil platform. Pipe sections are added, one by one, and it goes down thousands of feet. Then again, and again, until the system reaches nearly 3 miles deep, which means the ship wasn't just sitting. The ship was supporting a giant vertical column of metal extending beneath it. Under stress, moving, sensitive. If it breaks, it could sink everything. Everything had to work perfectly. Engineering had to be flawless. Timing had to be exact. And most importantly, the secret could not be exposed. Because at any moment, a Soviet ship could come close. And in the summer of 1974, that fear becomes real. Glomar Explorer reaches the target zone and begins the operation. For days, it stays above the same point. The claw moves deeper into the abyss. And then, Soviet ships appear. Are they suspicious? Or are they simply observing? Is it coincidence? In Cold War language, coincidence often means danger. Because if the Soviets realize this ship is trying to lift their missing submarine, the operation collapses instantly. A diplomatic crisis, military tension, or direct interference. So the cover story must work every second. We are conducting mining research. Meanwhile, on the ocean floor, the claw takes position, and the heist begins. The claw clamps the wreckage, and the lift starts. Slowly, silently, precisely. Pipe sections are pulled up, one by one. The system reverses backward. This is not a few hours. This continues for days. Everyone knows if something breaks halfway, there may be no second chance. If the wreck fragments, you lose it. If the claw slips, it's gone. If there's a failure in the pipe column, the entire system could collapse. And during the lift, something goes wrong. The operation is not fully successful. Part of the lifted section breaks and falls back to the ocean floor. Not all of the potentially most valuable parts reach the surface. Imagine that moment. Years of planning, $1 billion project, a secret ship, and then metal snaps, and the ocean swallows the secret again. But it isn't total defeat, because not everything is lost. One portion is still brought into the ship's moon pool. So the operation is not a complete victory, but it's not a complete failure either. How much was recovered? What equipment? What documents? What technological components? Even today is not fully public. What is known is that the operation ends with a partial recovery. And the heaviest part of the story comes here. The human factor. According to reports, the recovered section contained the remains of Soviet sailors. And the U.S. holds a formal burial at sea. There was Cold War hostility, but a person who died on the ocean floor is still a person. That moment pulls the story out of a spy movie and into human reality. Then the ship leaves the area. The operation ends. And for a while, Project AZORIAN remains exactly as planned, a secret, until the leak begins in 1975. Journalists get a tip. Questions grow. Doors are knocked on. And the CIA faces a new problem. How do you deny this? If you deny it completely, and proof appears later, you've lied. If you admit it, you confirm one of the most sensitive operations in history. So the CIA gives a historic answer. We can neither confirm nor deny. This isn't just about details. This isn't just about the outcome. This is about the existence of the operation itself. And that answer becomes a standard. And its name comes from the ship. The Glomar response. Years later, in law, in FOIA cases, in journalism, this phrase lives on as the government's special language of silence. Now the question is, was Project AZORIAN a success? If we say they raised the entire submarine, no. But if we say they did the impossible, yes. Because this operation wasn't only espionage. It was the fusion of engineering and espionage, not with weapons, not with disguises. A heist done with steel, stabilization, and mechanics. And the most unsettling part is this: the most valuable result may not be what they recovered. It may be what they learned. How to build secret infrastructure, how to operate under surveillance in remote waters, how to attempt retrieval from an impossible depth, and how to turn an operation into a legend while keeping the most important parts still locked away. Because Project AZORIAN shows us one thing: history's biggest secrets are not always in archives, not always in palaces. Sometimes they lie on the ocean floor. And if once a state built a ship to steal a submarine from 3 miles deep, then you can't help but think, what else don't we know? What did they actually get? And what remained in the piece that fell back into the dark?